Welcome to the King Christian
and Queen Linda podcast,
where our mission is to bring you the latest and greatest information on health, wellness,
and everything in between to help you become a stronger and more confident version of yourself. Welcome to podcast 11 of King Christian and Queen Linda. Today, Christian, we're going to discuss how fear is destroying your life, right? We know that we're programmed with fear from when we're born, right? It's an instinct. It's in our nervous system. It keeps us safe. We feel fearful. That fight or flight mode kicks in and we flee or we get out of the way. So fear also, though, can harm us, right? It can keep us from living our authentic life and hold us back from things and keep us in situations that maybe we should not be in any longer. So we're going to start with relationships. And Christian, just sort of tell us a little bit about what you think, how fear can, affect a relationship, positive or negative.
Exactly. Fear can be your best friend or your worst enemy. As Linda said, it's a safety feature that we have, right? You see something that might be harmful, get out of the way, get away from it, get to safety so you can continue living life and procreating, right? But contrary to what fear was way back when in hunter-gatherer times, right. Lions, tigers, bears, you had to run from that. Now, the things that make you fearful might be speaking up in a relationship, saying something to your boss, approaching someone on the street that said something to you that is unacceptable, and so forth. So when it comes to relationships, fear holds a ton of people's relationships back.
Absolutely.
From making progress, and it's because we are afraid of what our partner might think of what we have to say.
Exactly. Or our partner might leave us if they don't like something that we have to say, or react in a negative way, or have a big argument. Or so sometimes it's easier to say, you know what, I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to bother dealing with it. And I know I've been guilty of it, so I can completely understand that feeling.
Exactly. And feelings is exactly what it's about. Mm-hmm. Because,
emotions.
I've seen and heard this many times where a woman might be afraid of telling her man what she needs. I need more affection. I need more time with you. I need more sex. All these things that are basic needs in a relationship. Well, I say basic, but they're basic needs in a relationship, and they should be spoken about. There should be conversations in the relationship about these things. And honestly, these should happen right in the beginning, right? So that you can establish an understanding with each other on where you each stand, who needs what, how much of what type of what. But if the conversations don't happen, then there's always the wonder, well, what if I say this? Then they might feel this. And if they get angry, then how do I suffer as a result of that? And, when it comes to something simple like more time, when these things don't get spoken about, the other person doesn't know, so they continue to live life the way they are, thinking that things are fine. Now, I will say that the fear factor, you're both responsible. Because even if one of you doesn't bring up it's going to take one person to bring up the conversation. It's very rare that two people at the exact same time say something like, oh, I want to talk to you. And it's like, oh, interesting. You said it at the exact same moment I did. One of you is probably thinking it. The other person might not be, just because maybe they never learned to talk about it. Like, I know from being a kid, my dad was not big on teaching me about emotions or showing them, right? And I didn't learn about how to treat a woman in a relationship regarding expressing emotions, telling them how you feel, asking for things, seeing what they want. Hey, babe, like, is there anything you need from me to be a better partner? Right? And these things don't get said. And then the girl is like, well, I wonder when he's going to say something. I hope,
Well, but it's, and to be open with our audience, because that's what we're doing here, is, and those are things that you and I have talked a lot about in our own relationship. I mean, you and I are constantly communicating with each other about what we need. And, sometimes it's a matter of just saying to the person, hey, you know what, you're giving me everything I need. I'm really happy in this relationship. It's not always necessarily saying something that you're not getting. It's always good to communicate, to let your partner know the things that you are getting too. It goes both ways. Like, people want to hear praise and and that they're doing a good job versus not. But, you and I, we've worked a lot on our relationship over the years as far as expressing to each other what we need and if we need time on our own, or, if you have to do something, or, just lots of different things. But we've worked really well at communicating. So we've alleviated that fear. Like, I never feel uncomfortable coming to you to tell you how I feel about something, and I know you don't either, because we've talked about it. And one agreement that Christian and I have that I think is super important to share also that helps avoid fear is that we both know that whatever we say to each other always comes with good intentions. We never say something to each other to cut the other person down or be sarcastic or be hurtful in any way. I know if he corrects me on something, he's doing it because he cares about me and he wants me to be my best self all the time. I know that he's not criticizing me and being like, God, he's always picking on me. It doesn't come that way. So, and it's important to set those guidelines in a relationship, that you understand each other, because if not, stuff gets taken out of context, especially if you're going to text message your significant other something and they interpret it the wrong way, versus saying, hey, I got your message, but I don't know how to read it. So what did you mean? Oh, I meant it like this. Oh, okay. Then that alleviates a whole bunch of stuff.
Exactly. That is a fantastic point. And
thank you. See?
That is something that, I remember the times that you and I, very rare, but we had disagreements or just times of tension. That's what I'm going to call them, because we've never had all-out arguments or yelled at each other or, like she said, cut each other down. Because if this is a person that you love and you want to spend time with, and you care to see them grow and help nurture that growth, why would you do anything to make them less than they could be? It's like You see a beautiful flower out in nature and you're like, oh, that thing's great and I want that thing to be in my life. You're going to have to give it water, right? You're not going to put a sheet over it so it doesn't get sun, and you're not going to prevent it from getting the nutrients it needs. You want to nurture it so it continues to be beautiful and it grows and you get to enjoy it and it gets to enjoy you, right? And I remember a few times coming up to her and just bringing things up, even if it seemed like things were fine. Like, hey, listen, is there anything that you need? Or I might have said something, and even in my head, I thought it might not have been just said in either the right way or in a kind way. And I'm like, listen, I said something earlier, and I just want to, let you know that I didn't mean this by it. And she might say, oh, like, I didn't even think that.
I didn't take it that way.
But it's good. The initiative is important. And this is also how you prevent your partner from having fear.
Right.
I see this all the time.
It can be proactive.
I've had friends in relationships like this. I've just seen people on the street like this where their partners say something, and it's something small. At least a person who doesn't, sweat the small stuff would think that. It's something small. And then the partner flips out and they're screaming, and you're always doing this and that. How do you think they're going to react to you in the future when they want to say something that they think might upset you?
They won't. They're going to be like, you know what? It's not worth. I'm not going to go down that road again.
Exactly. And you want to make communicate. This is supposed to be your best friend. And I say this with passion because I see so many relationships destroyed because of this. This is supposed to be your best friend, but yet you make them timid to approach you, the one person they're supposed to be able to turn to when they have trouble, or when they need to express something, or when they need support. And you're just going to crap on them? Like, you have to, when they say something, if it strikes a chord in you, just say, hey, babe, you know what? I just what? I need a minute. I'm just going to think about this, and let's talk about it in 5 minutes, tomorrow, whenever it might be.
Cooler heads prevail, I think, is what you're saying. But it's so true. It's, taking things, calling it out right away. Calling it out right away and addressing it so that resentment doesn't build up and things don't get worse than they need to over something small. Something small can cause a breakup in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. I always term this as sweeping dust under the rug, right? If you clean your house every week, and instead of taking the dust and put it in the dustpan and throw it in the garbage or outside, you sweep it under the rug, and that rug develops a lump. And then you keep doing it, and the bump gets bigger and bigger, and eventually you trip over it. And that is when, so to speak, the pot boils over in the relationship. I see this happen all the time where a couple starts arguing, and I'm just going to use this standpoint of the woman might say something like the guy comes in and he doesn't wash his dishes, and she freaks out like, you never do anything I ask, and I just, and just fill in the blank, right? And just like fire and rage is coming out of her mouth. And the outsider might think, oh my God, it's not even a big deal.
Right.
Like, what's that? But oftentimes there's something underlying, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And this is why you cannot hide things from your partner. And I'm talking deep too. Even if it's something as bad as like you cheated, right? These things are going to happen. Not are going to happen, but if these things happen, hopefully not. But if these things happen, yes, it's a hard thing to do. But again, if you're going to be and I'm going to speak from the man standpoint. If you're going to be an honorable man, you need to be honest with your partner. You need to stand up, because whether or not she freaks out on you, you made the mistake, so you need to man up and honor it, right? Or if you did something stupid, it might have been something that you think is not a big deal, but maybe it's a big deal to her.
Right.
You might have broken something of hers, right? And maybe you live with some other people and you don't say anything. Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Or you forgot to make that dinner reservation.
Exactly, right? and that's
or an anniversary.
That is a perfect
or a birthday.
Actually, you know what? Let's touch on this for a second, because to me, I'm a person that doesn't really value my own birthday. What I mean by that is, if someone didn't throw a party or get me a gift, not a big deal.
You're not crying about it.
Yeah, I'm so focused on business and bodybuilding and just health and fitness and being a coach and just doing my normal thing that whatever. I won't think twice about it. But somebody else, like, for example, my parents, their birthdays are very important to them. And I've had an instance where I forgot my
birthdays are important.
Exactly, yeah. And I forgot my dad's birthday, and I didn't send him a card, and I didn't even, it turned into this big issue.
That's a tough thing.
And I understand, because time went by, I didn't hear from him for like a month. And then I reached back out, and he didn't answer my call.
So
weeks went by.
He was a little upset.
Oh, yeah. And then, down the road, we had this whole thing. He's like, I was really upset you missed my birthday. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I totally forgot. And, he's like, that's really, really made me upset. And I know I held a grudge and I shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, no, that's, obviously that's my fault. And I never let it happen again. But because I have to understand how important that event is to that person.
Correct.
It's not about me. It's not about, I have stuff going on. I just forgot. It's, I'm really, really sorry. I know how important that is to you, Dad. And you know what? I promise that will never happen again. And just come forward and say that. Don't throw the, it's not a big deal, whatever. How many other birthdays have I remembered? It doesn't matter.
Right.
If this is important to that person, you need to allow them to enjoy that moment and show them how important you consider them by remembering these things. That's why we set alerts on our phone or schedule them on the calendar. Exactly.
The old-fashioned way of doing things. But it's true. And there's another component to fear in a relationship also is, I work with women over 40, and that's a really critical time in our lives because, we change a lot when we get into our 40s. We're different than when we were in our 20s and 30s, and you just got married, and it's all the blissful things, and you have kids and all those moments and things. Then you get into your 40s and 50s and beyond, and I think you reevaluate your life in a different way. And, I've talked to a fair amount of women that are in relationships that they just don't want to be in anymore. And fear holds them in that relationship because it's fear of money. It's fear of, there are kids involved. Are there assets involved? Are there, homes? Just lots of different things that are involved in that. So that's another piece of fear is letting fear keep you paralyzed and in a place that you don't necessarily want to be anymore. And I think, Christian, this might be fair to say that people, if you don't want to be in a situation anymore, it's usually black or white. Like when you get to a point where you don't want to be in a marriage anymore or a relationship, like most people know the signs are there, but maybe we just put it off because of some of the reasons I just listed. Some people are just afraid to be alone or afraid of the unknown or afraid of how they're going to survive or will anybody ever love them again? Or, a lot of things come into it. There's a lot of anxiety around it. So, but I think it's really important for men and women to really evaluate those feelings if they're having those kind of fearful events in their lives, because Christian, you and I both believe life is short. We got to make what we have the best every day. And, holding back and not living the way you should live is a sad event. I can even speak for myself when I got divorced about, it's been almost 4 years now. But, I let fear hold me in a relationship for a long time. And I wasn't in a bad relationship. It was just not fulfilling me anymore. But I let fear hold me there. And it was money, and it was assets, and it was the unknown, and it was not so much being alone, but, children and all those. There were a lot of things involved. And it took me a really long time, years to come around to the decision that I wanted to be on my own. So I really understand those fearful feelings that a lot of men and women could have around trying to get out of a relationship. It's a big deal when you're older and you have children, and there's a lot more involved than just, a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you're breaking up with someone that you've been with for a year or two. So
you also mentioned, I want to delve into this a little bit more, because you and I have friends who have friends beside, obviously you went through this. I've got several friends who have been divorced, and it's from what I see from the outside, and friends have come to me about it, and looking for support and direction, and just some sound advice. And it's important that if you are in a situation like this, find someone who you can talk to. Right? It's not that you can't make the decision on your own or you don't know what to do, but sometimes you need to vent to get another opinion.
Right.
And maybe the opinion is on how you're going to go about this. Because just like Linda said, the fear of the unknown, you're thinking that as a result of your decision, life might be worse off after you've made that decision.
Right.
And the reality is that's not true, because this is just the way I think of that. Everything that happens, one, it happens because of you, but also there's always an equal opportunity in every obstacle, right? For how bad you think things might be, there's the opportunity to make things that much better.
Right.
It's all about how you pursue it and how you perceive it. And Linda, you mentioned that you had sought out a person that helped you,
yes.
that you spoke to,
yes.
Helped you through, and they helped you plan it. Okay, this is what you're going to do with your finances.
Yep. This
is how the family situation is going to go. This is what to say to your kids, because you might not know how to break it to them. You might think, they're going to think I'm tearing the family apart and I'm destroying us, and
it's brutal,
and they're never going to love me again, and I'm going to have to work the rest of my life trying to explain to them that I love you. This wasn't because of you.
Right.
And actually, you know what? I will speak from a standpoint. My parents got divorced, right? I think I was 11 or 12, and I remember I was at the kitchen table, and they both pulled me in there. I had no idea what was going on, but what I did know is that they were sleeping in different bedrooms.
Okay.
Right? Now, I was a young kid, being 11 or 12. I was a smart kid. Every kid's smart.
Right.
We know things aren't right, but we don't necessarily know what's going to happen, right? So life seemed normal as far as my own life, but they were sleeping in separate bedrooms. And I knew that they were now in a loveless relationship.
Right.
They still cared about each other as human beings and former partners, but there was no,
they weren't hugging at the end of the day.
Correct. There was no affection, no public display. No displays of affection.
Kids noticed that stuff right away.
And they pulled me in the room, in the kitchen. I was sitting at the table, and they're like, "Christian, we want to tell you something." And I'm like, "All right, I know something's up." And my mom was like, "Your father and I are getting a divorce." And I remember starting to cry. But I also remember not understanding why I was crying. And this is sort of weird, and it might not, it doesn't necessarily help anyone with anything, but I was a kid. So speaking from your kids' examples, they're going to be a mix of emotions. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that they hate you, because I didn't hate either of them. And it doesn't mean that they're going to love you any less. It doesn't mean that they think you're bad people. But I remember I still felt supported. I still felt love from both of my parents. I knew I'd be okay, because they both showed love through putting a roof over my head,
right,
caring about me on my birthdays and holidays, right, and telling me they love me and still being there for me. They were like, Christian, listen, if you need, just talk to us. If there's anything, your father and I are here to support you. Anything you need, we love you. And just reaffirming these things. We love you. We're here for you. We know this is a confusing thing for you. So anything you're feeling, please feel comfortable and free to come tell us. You know that there's nothing that you can't tell us.
And that's good, because that teaches you as a young child not to be fearful to express yourself to the people that are in your life. So that's a great, that was a great foundation for them to build for you, because now you're like, oh, well, I can talk to my mom about anything. I can talk to my dad. I can talk to my partner. I can talk to my teacher. Whatever it is, it teaches you how to communicate with people and to express yourself. I will give a shout out to Laura Campbell, who is the woman that helped me navigate my situation, because I was really scared, really scared. It took me, honestly, probably 8 years to really come to the decision that I wanted to be divorced. 8 years, that's a long time. And, but Laura helped me. And if anybody out there is listening to this and this is resonating with you, male or female, I can reach out to me, or Christian, I can get you Laura's info. But she was fantastic about taking me step by step through the process. Because what do we do when we anticipate a situation, right? Christian, we think about the big picture and we panic, like, oh my God, I have all these things I have to do in order to get divorced, or whatever the task is, right? And we kind of freak out a little bit because it feels like it's so much. But she was like, let's just break it down into steps. The first piece is you need to talk to your husband about how you feel and tell him what you want. And she's like, let's handle that first. And we went over what I was going to say to him. And my heart was pounding. And then I accomplished that. And then the next step was to tell the kids. And she helped, actually both of us, with what we were going to say to them. And we just took it in pieces as I went along the process. And you know what? It took the anxiety and the stress out of it so much. So I highly recommend, if you're considering a divorce or you're unhappy in your relationship, that you find someone like that's objective, that can help you navigate it piece by piece so it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Exactly. And just like we said, that helps to squash your fear in that situation. Also, by you going about the process when it should happen, and in that way, it eliminates the fear in your kids' minds. Kids are thinking, what's going to happen to our family?
Exactly.
We had this family, mommy and daddy, and maybe you have there's a little brother or another, sibling. What's going to happen to our family? I thought we were all going to grow up together, and they might be an emotional mess. But as long as you make sure that you are okay as far as how you're going to go through this, they will see you handling things well, and that will help them handle things well on their own. The other thing is, this is a very important part, is kids are sponges. Kids are absorbent to what is around them. They're absorbent to their environment. And if you stay in a marriage far longer than you need to, and you are now in a loveless home, what do you think you are teaching your kids to do when they grow up?
They're going to accept the same behavior and go through the same thing.
Men, I will speak to you. If you have daughters, you want the best for her, right? And I know your answer is yes. You want her to grow up with a man who has integrity, who will respect her, who will love her, and protect her.
Yep.
If any other man should ever raise a hand to her or a bad word, whatever it is. And also, you want to make sure that she is shown the love that she deserves.
Exactly.
So if you do not do this with your wife, and if the relationship needs to be nixed, if it needs to be ended, you will teach her, if you don't do this, you will teach her to hang on to a relationship with a man she does not love anymore just because she saw you do that.
Exactly.
And this is why it's important for you to be a great example for them. No matter what you do in life, you are an example for your kids. And you need to make sure that you go about things with a sense of urgency. If the relationship needs to be ended, do it and explain to your kids why. Mommy and daddy have had some issues. We still care about each other, but we've decided it's best if we just separate. We still love you guys. And tell them.
We're still your parents.
Exactly.
We're still going to parent you together. It's not going to be one against the other.
Correct.
And to your point also, the women that are listening, you want your daughters to look at you as a strong female figure in their life, so that if they get into a situation that's not ideal for them, they say, my mom was a badass and would never have taken this crap, and neither am I, and they're going to walk out. So versus, oh, my mom sucked it up, so you know what? I guess that's what I'm supposed to do too. So
Yes. And this is also very important when it comes to abusive relationships. Now, I know this is running deep, and it's important for us to talk about this because this stuff is real. Many of us like to avoid speaking about this because it seems too sensitive, right? Oh, well, I don't want to think that that's going to happen.
Right.
This is reality. You need to face reality. You need to prepare your kids for reality. If you and I have friends who have been in relationships like this. I know people who are in domestically abusive relationships. There is physical contact, there is a loss of love, there is problems, and they stay in there because, well, I have life insurance, or I have health insurance, or well, the husband or the wife is making money, so I'm just fine. But if your daughter or your son, this happens with boys too, gets in an abusive relationship, whether verbal or physical, they will stay there and continue to take this abuse. These are the people that you see in public. Oh, what's that bruise on your arm? Oh, no, it's fine. I just fell. And you know better.
Right.
Likely their parent taught them to just deal with it. Oh, just deal with it. You know what? Can't you just deal with it? And you've got a roof over your head, and you've got a spouse that makes money. Can't you just suck it up? And the reality is, no, we all deserve to live the lives that we want.
Exactly.
And not just accept things the way they are. But this starts with you as a parent teaching your kid what they need to know about life. Don't accept anything less than you deserve. Don't take any crap from anyone. If there is abuse, get the hell out of the house.
Yep.
And if you need to tell somebody, if you need to involve the authorities, digging deep. I've had this experience in my life where I've had people in my family that have abused other people in the family. And looking at things from the outside, I couldn't help the person, but thankfully that person helped themselves.
Yep.
And this person is very near and dear to me. And that person, she took the initiative to get the assistance she needed. And it was the police. And the situation is solved now, and now things are fine.
Good.
And the person doing the harm no longer does that because they came to an understanding with themselves that they couldn't keep living life that way. Right. And honestly, this stuff happens. And just because someone does something bad does not mean you are a bad person for the rest of your life. You've got to own your own your crap, right? You've got to to say that, you know what, I'm not going to accept this from myself anymore because I don't want to put my family in fear of me because they don't deserve that, right? You notice how this stuff, it's all a circle.
Right.
And everything affects what you do, affects your family, and what they do affects you. So make sure you are living in an honorable way. You are teaching your kids what not to accept and what to demand out of their spouse so that they live the best life for themselves and for you.
And I think just don't accept, just don't become complacent. That's all. If you know in your heart a relationship is not serving you anymore, whether it's a marriage or just a significant other, or a friendship, it really could be any relationship, take the steps to resolve the situation because nobody should have to live in a relationship that's not ideal. Life is too short. It's absolutely too short. And, if people are fearful of being alone, if you're a good person and you've got your act together, you're not going to be alone. Eventually somebody will come along that you'll spend time with. So I think the bottom line is, just be alert and be good to yourself. And things are really hard. It's very, very hard to make change, especially that kind of change. But sometimes you have no choice. For me personally, when I would think about either being divorced or living maybe another 40 or 50 years in the relationship that I was in, staying in that relationship made me feel sadder than getting divorced. Because all of a sudden now I'm like, I am wasting... That's like a whole lifetime, 40, 50 years. And I'm going to waste all that time in being somewhere that I don't want to be because I was scared. Like to me, that was sad. I'm like, I can't do that to myself. I have to live my life because my children are going to grow up and live their lives and they're going to go off and do their thing. And then what? I'm going to be left in a relationship that I don't want to be in. Then what do I do? So staying for your kids, you're not doing them a service by staying for your kids.
Exactly. So, and you know what? Even though our our wheelhouse is the men over 40 and the women over 40. This is important for the younger generation as well. And by younger, I'm only talking a couple years. 30, 35, it doesn't matter. This is just important for people in relationships in general. And the reason why this is also important to me is I have friends, good friends of mine right now, that are in relationships that they are not sure they should be in. Mm-hmm. And they come to me and they're like, oh man, I'm not really sure. And I will say this, do not rush into marriage. There is no reason to rush. You've got the rest of your life. And me saying you've got the rest of your life, if you get things right now, then you get things correct right now, then you get to spend the rest of your life the way you want. Versus the friends I have who have rushed into marriages and gotten divorced a year later, you might be in this situation right now where you're not sure if you should get married. Or you know what? You're like, I need more time. But the traditionalism is rushing you. Oh, well, once you get into the relationship, it should be only a year before the engagement. And then a year after that, the marriage should happen. Or, whatever it might be. Whatever you've been convinced that you need to do. Whatever you've been convinced that you need to do because that's what your parents told you and that's what TV portrays. Right. That's an important thing. The wedding's got to be the big white dress and all the people and the big party that's might be way too expensive for what you can afford at the point in life you are. But, you're going to kick all your money into this just because, that's just the way things are done. You've got to be able to challenge what others have told you. And you might, you've been taught that you need to make this woman an honest woman, right? Well, you guys have had sex already and
Why
you've
not
done
make
this.
him an honest man? Why is it make her an honest woman?
Well, that's true also. Yeah, but this is what's portrayed.
No, I know.
In
it's tradition.
The media.
It comes from way back when.
Exactly. And men, if you're not ready to put that ring on her finger, give yourself more time. Again, I say this with my close friends in my mind, in my heart. Like, guys, if you're not ready, just give it more time. Say, you know what, babe? If she brings it up, the biological clock is ticking.
Yeah,
listen, this is what I need for myself.
Right.
I wouldn't feel right as an honorable man marrying you at this time. It's not saying I don't want to. Right. But I just got to make sure that I got things all settled in my head. Whether it's career, whether it's you're just not sure. And then if you're just not sure, you definitely shouldn't be married.
Exactly. And it goes to communication. I mean, they should be on the same page as far as that goes. And, where they're talking about it like, oh, you know what, maybe we should wait a couple of years or, whatever. I would think that they would be on the same page like that. If one person's sort of pulling back a little bit, then there's a reason that someone's pulling back.
Exactly, but some people ignore these things.
I know. People get married and divorced just really all within a year. I mean, I know people like that too.
Exactly. And, these are the non-negotiables. If it's not the way it should be in your gut. I'm not talking about on paper or what others have told you. I'm talking about that little person inside that's telling you,
gut instinct is a strong sense of...
Yeah, the whole it's good when it's good, it's bad when it's bad. If it's bad when it's bad, pretty often, and you're like, I just something in me just tells me I shouldn't do this.
People know.
Exactly.
And then you go against your grain and you're like, I should have listened to myself.
Yeah. And you know what? And the reality is you're bullshitting yourself if you know it shouldn't happen and you still go through with it. Yeah. Then this is your fault. You set yourself up for failure. Instead of saying, you know what? Let me just shut everyone up. We're going to take a little bit more time, make sure it's right. Mm-hmm. Then you're good. Right? And this, you know what? I'm also going to just branch off for a second and talk about general communication, right? Communication with others. Don't cower away when you are uncomfortable with communicating with someone, but something needs to be said. And I'm going to take it off relationship. Actually, no, this is a relationship. I'm going to bring it on to whether it's a client and you have a coach, or it's a person that has said something to you, or it's a relative. And that you're uncomfortable and, okay, well, you know what? I don't really want to work with this coach anymore. But you know what? I'm just going to sort of fade away into the darkness and I'm just not going to say anything. Right. Because I don't want to face them and I'm just going to give them radio silence. And when they reach out to me, I'm not going to say anything for weeks. And then I'm going to BS them by saying, oh, well, I've been so busy. Yeah. Oh, you know what? And that coach knows, no, you have not been busy.
Right.
Especially if you know it's someone who doesn't work. Oh, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I know you're lying to me right now. Why can't you just tell me the truth? You know what? We all deal with uncomfortable situations. But just man up or woman up and just talk to the person. If they want to have a phone call with you to say, let's just talk this out. They're not trying to necessarily keep you on the program.
Right.
Or still, they're going to try to sell me again. How do you know that?
Right.
You don't know what's going to happen, but you're in fear that you think you know what they're going to say.
Total fear. And you don't want to face it because you feel like a doofus, too, because you blew them off for so long.
You got the big yes.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're like, oh, my God, I'm so uncomfortable. I can't deal with this.
That's what it is. Nobody wants to face it. It's like, I feel like I feel like a dope now for just being blowing it off.
And the person on the other
face the music.
Exactly. And the person on the other side feels bad for you because we're like, I know you're embarrassed. But you know what? Let's just talk it out, hug it out, and we go our separate ways. And it is what it is. And you know what you get? You get closure. So that when you see them in the future, it's not like, I have to turn my head away. Yep, I have to turn my head away because I can't deal with them. Oh, my God, I feel like such an idiot. Jesus.
And it just avoids so much stress, cortisol, unnecessary anxiety around us. It's like we make our own problems sometimes because we just refuse to address something or look at it, and we just stay, and then we're like, and you have that dread feeling all the time. And you don't have to do that if you just deal with whatever it is. And I know I'm minimizing it because some things are really big, like a divorce is really big.
Oh yeah.
But we just look the other way because we just don't want to deal with stuff. And I get it because I've done it. So I know, and not just getting divorced, but just lots of things with my kids, things with whatever. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. So,
Exactly. So I think we have beaten the relationship topic to death, but maybe we didn't. And you know what? This is where I want to let you guys know that are listening right now, you that's listening, that's like, I'm in this situation right now.
Yep.
And I don't know what to do. We are here for you. Myself, Christian, and over there, Linda the Queen. We are here for you. So if you are in a situation, even if you don't know us directly, honestly, we're open books. If you need help, please reach out to us. ChristianFPalmer@gmail.com. If you don't want anyone to know about this, email me. And Linda, what's your email?
Linda, ifbbpro@gmail.com. And even if you don't want to share with us personally, we know a lot of people that we can turn you to, like a Laura Campbell or a good therapist or someone that can help you, because there's no reason you should feel alone. And it can be very isolating. It can be extremely isolating. I know the feeling, and you're afraid to tell your friends or to be judged or a family member. But if you need help, let us know, because if we can't help you personally, then we can direct you to lots of good people that can.
Exactly. And you might just need a sounding board.
Right.
Listen, you might be also thinking, well, I don't want to burden you or them with my problems, and it's not just a big deal. You are important too, no matter what you think about yourself, or else we wouldn't be doing this podcast trying to help you live the best life that you can live. So make sure that if you feel a certain way, reach out. Don't allow yourself to suffer because, again, you're living in fear. Well, I don't want to reach out. You know what that is? That's fear.
That's fear.
You're fearful of what we might think. We are not judging you. We will never judge you. We don't want to judge you. All we want to do is to help.
And especially now during this period that we're in with a pandemic and we're so isolated from each other, it's easy to feel even more isolated. So don't allow yourself to go down the rabbit hole. There's always somebody to help.
Exactly. And with that, face your fear and live your best life.
Until next time.
Thank you for joining us. We release a new podcast every Thursday, so make sure you tune in. To contact us, visit our websites, relentlessfitnessandnutrition.com
and lindamstevens.com. Also, visit our YouTube channel, King Christian and Queen Linda. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
See you next time.